What is up, clean freaks and filthy friends alike? Filthy Dan coming at you once again for another film discussion. So here we are. We have entered the valleys of Elm Street. The inevitable hiccup of any franchise. We are going to talk about A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, which came out in 1989, just less than a year after A Nightmare on Elm Street 4. And this one picks up about a year after the last film. So good continuity there, good continuity. We find ourselves reuniting with the surviving cast of the last film, Alice and Dan, as they're graduating high school. And all seems to be well for them, except Freddy is back, and he's using the dreams of Alice's unborn baby as a vessel to enter the dreams of her friends. Now, this is a really cool idea, and it has a lot of potential. You would think with A Nightmare on Elm Street, you could make some really awesome fucking film about an unborn baby's dreams fucking infiltrating other dreams. Well, somebody dropped the ball on this one. First of all, the film was rushed into production, and it gives the film a feeling of incompletion. And it would also wind up being heavily censored by the MPAA, and you add that to the rush production, and you find yourself with a film that just really should have been worked on a little more, and fucking it's a mess. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's see if there's anything I can find redeeming about it, because I will say right off the bat, I hate this fucking film. Anyway, it does continue nicely from the fourth film. It concludes what I have called the Dream Trilogy, which is 3, 4, and 5. And it does pretty good at following the continuity again. And it shows us what we were told about Freddy's backstory in the third film. This time, instead of hearing about it, we actually get to see it. And it explains a little more about Amanda Kruger, who I think I neglected to mention in the Dream Warriors review. Getting to the characters, Alice is back, and she has a lot more going on here. She's much less frustrating this time around for me. She's a badass. She's already seen the shit that Freddy's capable of, and she's not fucking around with him this time. She's ready. And she's a blonde this time. I didn't really care for that choice. I mean, it does kind of show some growth for her, I guess, in a cosmetic sense or whatever. I do like that Dan is also back, and I don't have to remind myself who the fuck he is in this film. They kind of give him a little bit of a personality to work with. I mean, him and Alice being together and graduating, getting ready to get engaged and all that good stuff. Alice's dad is back, and he's got a nice little arc going for himself where he's recovered from his alcoholism, and he's turned over a new leaf, and he's still he's played pretty well still. There's a character in this called Yvonne. She's probably the easiest to remember of the new characters in this film. She's really cool. She starts off really skeptical about the whole thing of Freddy and the Nightmares. I find that to be a little silly though, because 5 films in and you still have characters who are doubting and arguing with the idea of what the fucking franchise has been about. But she's a pretty badass. She would have been pretty cool to see in more Nightmare films, but those of you who know, you know what we get later. As for the rest of the characters, they all kind of suck. The rest of the teens, I know I griped a lot about the teens in Nightmare 4, but the teens in this film are even less dimensional. And I guess when they made the fourth film, they're like, yes, we're not going to give them much to work with. when they did this one, they're like, hey, that seemed to work. So let's give these characters even less personality, give them a single trait. That's all they have to work with. That's going to rule their dialogue. Freddy in this one, Freddy here is just a little too much. This time he should have dialed it back by fucking 11 or 12. He's just fucking too much, and his makeup looks shit. Fuck Chef Freddy, fuck Super Freddy, fuck his dialogue, just fuck Freddy in this film. I love Robert Englund, but Freddy this time around is a no for me, dog. I like the universal horror vibe going on in this film. It has that kind of gothic tone to it. It's very European with its sensibilities. I think the director was actually a Englishman. I think this film would look pretty cool in black and white, honestly. It has some pretty nice cinematography. It's well shot. I like a lot of the cold, dark filters that they throw in a lot of the shots. I like that they tilt some of the shots. Like they're a little more explorative with the camera work in this one, I feel. I do like the blue tint that you also get in some shots. That kind of echoes the thing about the cold, dark filter. This is also generally one of the darker films in the franchise. It's definitely in the top half in terms of dark tone goes. This has a real art house vibe compared to the fourth film, which was a very polished MTV shit. So for me, it works better on that level. But the effects are a steep step down. There's only a few redeeming effects in this film, one being Dan on the motorcycle. Baby Freddy was kind of a cool idea. And that was really about it for that. The Elm Street house is back again, and it's more dilapidated than it has been in the past. And it really, it has more personality than half of the cast. So there we go on that. I like the little remix of the Jump Rope song, where it's in one of Alice's first dreams early on in the film when Freddy's returning from the dead, where when they get to the 9-10 part, the girl says 9-10, he's back again. Like that was a cool touch. And honestly, that was one of the things I best remembered from this film, like when I saw it a long time ago. The shot of Yvonne walking up to the Weston Hills Asylum during the climax dream was pretty cool. I like that it looks like a matte painting when you see it in the background and she's in the foreground walking to it. Like that's a really nice shot and kind of reminds you a lot more of those old Universal horror films. Although I find it interesting how Weston Hills this time around looks, it has changed quite dramatically from what I remember it looking like in the third film. And that kind of, funny enough, echoes Halloween 5 when the Myers house changes up, but we will talk about that a little later on down the road. I like the stop motion effect in the fridge when the fridge is molding during the fucking pretty girl's death. I also do like in the opening dream sequence, they kind of pull what they did in the third film where it starts with a dream. Our main girl wakes up and it's still a dream, and then she wakes up for real. That was interesting. I like how that shower dream, that's just some real looking shit right there. Like fucking having all that mud and gunk coming out of the fucking drain. That was just fucking disturbing. I like the cool Robert Englund cameo here. Like, of course Robert Englund plays Freddy, but he shows up unmasked in the first dream segment when Alice is dreaming about Freddy Krueger and Amanda Krueger. It's it's always nice to see Robert come in and show his real face there. I neglected to mention his cameo in the fourth film. I also like during the climax when Yvonne is trying to find the remains of Amanda Kruger. She comes across them and they steal the shot from Psycho when Marion Crane's sister finds Norman's mother's body in the basement. Turns around, it's the nice little fucking skeleton. Yeah, overall though, I really did not care for the execution of this film. Again, it was a rushed production, heavily cut down, and I think that really hurt the film. There are only 3 kills in this film, and I know that the Nightmare on Elm Street films are not renowned for their high kill count anyway. However, I do like that the 3 kills we get in this all kind of go back to what they had done in the first film, and they'd done it off and on throughout the franchise where they make it look like it could have been an accident in the real world. Like, that's just something that the series kind of decides to do and not do here and there. Another little thing I picked up on is, like, we all love it when Freddy says bitch. We all love hearing Freddy say, "Hey, bitch." However, I find him saying things like piggy and piglet to be a little more ominous, a little more eerie. It kind of plays into the menacing creep factor of his character especially when you consider his backstory. I feel the film is pretty heavy-handed when it comes to its the pregnancy and the reveal of Jacob being Alice's kid. I find it to be even heavier-handed with its pro-life versus pro-choice argument, which is actually kind of a bit of a theme in this one, kind of like in Nightmare 2, it was heavy-handed with its themes. This one is, again, very heavy-handed with what it's trying to say, its underlying message, and that's just not something that, for this kind of horror movie, that's not what we're looking for. I mean, it may be your bag, but that's not what I'm looking for in a slasher. Anyway, that climax dream was pretty cool when you got Alice going into Weston Hills Asylum in her dream, while Yvonne is going there in person in the real world. And some of the shots kind of almost match up a little bit when it's transitioning. It kind of does like they did in Dream Warriors, where you got Nancy and the kids going into the dream while Dr. Bill Maher and the late great John Saxon are going into the junkyard. Yeah, I like that they did that. This one, you could see that they were trying to recapture what they were trying to do in 3. I give them credit for it, but still, the ball was fucking dropped hard on this film. I do like the little chase scene, though, in the climax dream, though, where they're in looks like a little M.C. Escher painting. It kind of reminds me of Labyrinth, though, and it reminds me that I could and probably should be watching Labyrinth. But anyway, let's move on and talk about my favorite kill in this film. Honestly, I almost skipped this segment, but then I remembered, yes, Dan's death in this film was pretty fucking cool. And this is probably what ate up most of the budget for the film, was just fucking the effects on that scene alone. It's kind of got that Iron Maiden meets Knight Rider feel when he starts fucking transforming into the motorcycle, and like the motorcycle is becoming a part of him, and he just looks fucking badass as shit. And I think if there's anything everyone could agree on, that is one thing everyone can agree on in this film. Smutty sightings. Here we go. The opening credits are interwoven with a nice blue, really intimate close-up shot of Dan and Alice fucking. And they're not just fucking, they are passionately going at it. It's just real just close-ups, no penetration, just little close-ups of the hands on the skin, and You got the fucking opening credits written in blue chalk and shit. It's pretty cool. And then immediately after that, we have another little bit, and it's Lisa Wilcox's stunt double going into the shower for the little post-coital shower scene. And we see her a couple times in there, and like you can tell when they're using that fucking, I forget what you call it. It's like frosted glass, I think, when you can see the body double inside there, just tapping on the glass and the water's starting to fill up. Like you could totally tell that's her body double, but it still counts. My favorite dream in this film, I know I gave the climax dream some credit, but I'm going to cop out and say it is definitely Dan's death because that is just fucking awesome. What about Bob Shea? Bob Shea will not be spotted in here because he knew better than to put his face in this fucking film. Freddy Quippers. What was the best Freddy one-liner in this film? Honestly, all of Freddy's one-liners in A Nightmare on Elm Street 5 suck ass majorly, but I'm going to go with the one that best encapsulates this film, and that is kids. Always a disappointment. Because that's exactly what this film is. It's fucking disappointing. It is the most disappointing entry of this franchise for me. It's easily the Big Three's most disappointing effort of 1989. And this is the year that we got this piece of shit. We got Halloween 5, and we got Jason Takes Manhattan, all in 1989. All three of those are considered to be among the bottom of the barrel for each respective franchise. And this is the one I find to be the most disappointing out of the three. It's, on the whole, pretty boring and uninteresting for me. Again, I like the concept of an unborn child's dreams being used to invade the dreams of others. But it was sloppily handled, and I dreaded having to rewatch it. I actually had to rewatch this thing twice in preparation for this review. And I'm clearly a little flustered by this. Anyway, that is my review of A Nightmare on Elm Street 5. I advise you to skip it unless you're marathoning the series, or you just need to know. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I want to remind you, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Did Alice have to have a kid that was so ugly that it looked like he fell off the ugly tree and hit every fifth branch on the way down? Stay filthy, everyone.